Cool. Okay, we'll start. So, hi everyone. Welcome to what is now episode 2 of Meet the Founders. If you didn't make the first episode, we've actually just put it on YouTube, so I can send that round to anybody who might be interested in having a view. If you did make the first one, then welcome back. What would be great to start off with is there's a chat function just on the bottom section of the screen. It's just straight down in the middle. If you can just drop in like an introduction of yourself, let us know what you're working on right now. I think that might just help us tailor some of the conversations. So the theme tonight of the theme of the conversation tonight is building an MVP. And to strip that back just a little bit more, what we actually mean is how do you get started with the first version of your product? So something that we can take to market that's going to help you pitch to investors, get customers, and just all around just get moving in the right direction. And so we've got 2 people here that have done that very well. So we have Greg here, who's the founder of contemporary ski wear brand Loon Sport. And then we also have Gianmarco, who is the founder of the first reverse marketplace for sneakers, which is LacingLab. So we're going to start with just hearing a little bit more about their stories, and then we're going to break into a panel discussion afterwards, which is going to be hosted by Jacob, who's the founder and creative director of the studios here at Vitamin. So without further ado, I'm going to pass along to Greg first.
Thank you, Charlotte. I'm just going to start sharing my screen so you guys can see a little bit of the visuals. Hopefully you'll see that in just a moment. All right, have you got it up on screen now?
Yes.
Great. Cool. So, I mean, hopefully what we can do today is share a little bit of insight about my own journey, the lessons I've learned. I know that when I was just starting out, I had absolutely no clue where to go, what the first steps were. So, hopefully we can leave today with a little bit of knowledge for you guys. I certainly don't have all the answers, but creating products is something that I have done a lot of, and I'm very confident that we can impart some knowledge. So my company, Loon Sport, was founded in 2014. We launched in 2015. Of course, I was a progressive lifestyle sports brand rooted in mountain culture. Essentially, we make clothes for people who live in mountains or want to feel like they do. It's an aspirational brand, so we take the classic technical clothing line, it's a performance brand, but we have a few more luxury touch points, trying to sort of communicate contemporary minimalist aesthetic. We started as a ski wear brand, so I've been studying at Loughborough University and doing research in climate labs where companies like Adidas would come and ask for new technologies. So I had an amazing education in how to develop how to design for human performance in terms of the physiological side. Having been a ski instructor before university, I was always trying to apply that learning into the world that I knew. And for me, that sort of came from, firstly, there'd been no innovation in base layers since merino wool was introduced in the late 80s. And also being sort of a fan of fashion myself, I felt that a lot of the ski wear brands were being really, really boring and lazy, and you could take one logo from one product, put it on another, and not feel out of place. So I felt like there was an opportunity to introduce some design characters into the space as well. So from that first base layer, which we developed, we've sort of grown it out now. We've got other layers, accessories, lifestyle products. And it's grown out year by year. It's taking time. Now, for me, what I really love is the fabrics. So I always start my designs with the fabrics. The first product we made was actually a unique fabric for base layers. So that's how we got started. It was a fabric which we created. And that was sort of our introduction point. And it's gone from there. Also done collaborations with W Hotel and Verbier, and a burger restaurant in Verbier as well. And these are really interesting products because, just as soon as I've got established with how to design performance wear, I'm suddenly thrown into how do I design a face mask, how to design aprons and stuff for kitchens, which need certain requirements. So it kind of took me back through that process again. As soon as I was comfortable with one element, I was having to design completely new products again. And that's sort of been the case. So here's a little timeline of the company, so you can see the journey that we've been on. Being a seasonal brand means that we slowed down a little bit. We only get one collection a year, so hopefully you guys will go at twice the pace. But the bits that we're going to be focusing on today is sort of the 2014-2015 section. And you can see it took over a year for us to go from starting the company to selling our first products, or getting the first products out to first customers. And it's a really, really important time. There's tons to cover. But before you even get into developing your product, you really, really need to understand who your customer is and why you're doing what you do. So this is an exercise that I actually did with Vitamin when we were just starting, was trying to create a profile for these customers so that we knew exactly who they were and how to reach them. And most importantly, why they were going to love our product. You need to have a core value proposition. And that is the one thing about your products that's going to make your customer absolutely love you. And it's really, really important in the MVP stage, because there's so much that you could be doing, but you have a limited budget. You just have to focus that on that one core value proposition. Has to be perfect. Everything else can be okay. Doesn't matter if it's rough around the edges. As long as you're getting that, your customer's going to respond. So define your customer as well as you can. It's really, really going to help you in the later stages. If you rush into making a product, you'll make a product that no one wants. I guarantee it. Look at your competitors. Is there space in the market? Is there a commercial opportunity for the product that you want to design? This is sort of just a tool you can do, nice and visual as well. But again, it makes sure that you're not going to spend loads of money, loads of time developing a product which ultimately won't sell. Once you've done that stuff, then you can have a bit of fun, design the website. This is the first thing everyone rushes to is, oh, I want to make a brand, I want to make a website, it looks awesome. And to be honest, yeah, it's a really fun stage. Again, we spent about 2 months with Vitamin developing ours, and into this really beautiful aesthetic, which kind of married with the brand, and also had the e-commerce element to it, which, although we were actually launching with a wholesale strategy, which meant we wanted to sell through shops, it meant that the shops could see all of our products, see all the product information. So we were able to sell internationally from day one, but also it was really, really supporting our pitches to the shops. This is our first product, the Modulux base layer. So this is a fabric fabric concept I come up with, which I then partnered with a knitting mill in the UK to develop into into finished fabric. Use my physiological theory and paired it with their knitting expertise. Finding people to make what you want to make, it involves a lot of research. Ask people for recommendations. If you've got friends who are in similar areas, or have businesses in whether it's tech or a electronic product or a fashion product, ask for their recommendations, because it's really important that you get someone that you trust as well, not just someone who will do what you want, but will do it well. No one's going to give you their suppliers straight out, and to be honest, it's quite rude to ask. People have spent a lot of time to find the best suppliers that they can. Sometimes they might be able to recommend one for you, but they have no expectation that someone's just going to turn around and say, yeah, we make it with these guys, you can make it too. You've got to ask the right questions. So when you find someone who might be able to make what you want, do they make similar products already? Do they have the right machinery and skills? Will they produce to your volume requirements? Those are the most important questions. Do they make similar products? Do they have the right machinery? Will they produce to your volume requirements? Get on the phone and talk to them. Go see them if you can, and request samples of the work that they do to see their quality. They'll promise you the world, but it's really, really important you can see the output that they've already done, because that will be the quality that they make for you. There's tons of prototyping houses, people who'll specialize in making a first version product for you. You can find them online, depending on what your industry is, but they will charge a lot of money. So if you can be creative while cash is low, make a 3D model of what you want, make a digital mock-up. All you're trying to do with your MVP is get traction with your customer. It doesn't have to be a finished product. As long as you can connect with your customer, that's the value of your MVP. So this is some of the testing we did in the climate labs to make sure that the product was actually performing. What we wanted to do was make a product that was really, really specific performance for ski wear. So we're looking at exercising and then rest in cold environments to make sure that they maintain a steady body temperature. By proving that our product could do that better than anyone else's, that was our core value proposition, that we were the best ski base layer for skiing specifically. So every stage of product development, these are sort of the steps we go through. This is specific to fashion here, but to be honest, it's the same process in whatever industry you're in. You have your idea, you do your research around that idea, you start making some sketches, refine them into digital mock-ups, get reference images and reference garments or reference products. That's what already exists, what's out there already, that's most similar to what you want to make. And it's important that you're really honest here, because if products already exist, you've got to look at why isn't that performing the way that you think your product will. So make sure you're not fooling yourself. Then you can start creating specification and start sampling. Sampling is super, super important. It's the only way you'll know how your product's actually going to come out. So then you test that sample and you produce more samples. At this stage, you sort of go through maybe 2 or 3 different prototypes or samples before you get to a pre-production sample, which is at the point that you're agreeing with your manufacturer, this is the quality that it's going to come out at production. If it doesn't match this, I'm not paying you. And be really specific about that. If you've agreed a quality and they don't produce that quality, you have no obligation to pay. And often suppliers will try and cut the quality during the production process to save a few pennies. Just look out for that, and that's the value of having a gold standard pre-production sample. Then it goes to quality control, and then the scary bit is that it goes out to the customer, and they're going to do the testing for you. At this point, they're going to try it out, and they're going to come to you with how they think it can be better or where it's failing. With your MVP, you're really thankful to these guys. These guys are doing you a huge, huge favor in coming back to you with the feedback, and you can have that conversation and say, "Thank you. We'll improve that on the next version." But this cycle, it's constant. There's you have an idea, you iterate it, and then you validate it, and that's always going to keep happening the whole way through developing a product, developing a business, developing whatever it is, your marketing strategy and an employee. You have a theory, you test it, you improve it, and that's just a constant cycle that keeps going. That testing could be trials, customer feedback, your own research, sales. Just be honest with the feedback that you're getting to make sure that you make the changes to the product which are most relevant. I'm not trained in fashion design, so I had to find a language to communicate with my factories. My language was Photoshop, and I really recommend you at least get a basic knowledge of how to use Photoshop. Everyone can understand visual communication. You can have a verbal conversation with the factory. You're absolutely certain they understand what you want, and they'll produce something completely different. So make sure, well, by producing a visual mock-up, you can make sure that visually they understand what you're talking about. On the left here, we're looking at the original mock-up that I made on Photoshop. That's, sketching and copying and pasting and drawing. And on the right is the finished product. That's a photo of the finished product. So you can see it's really, really easy if you're able to produce visual mock-ups to get that transferred into the real world. Just final bit, sampling. Make sure you put a load of effort into sampling. Everything's worth sampling. Much better to find out your problems now rather than when you have 1,000 pieces. Sampling doesn't have to be expensive. Just be creative. Here we were just printing out pieces of paper, using felt tip to see whether the design we had on the screen actually looked like anything as a garment. So we bought what we thought was a similar looking garment, and then we scribbled all over it. And that was our sample. And it was quick. Within an hour, we had an idea whether that design was going to work or not. So a sample doesn't have to be this expensive, polished thing, especially at early stages when money's really thin. Just be creative. So a little bit of summary, know your core value proposition, know your customers and talk to them. It's really, really important that you get that dialogue between you and your customers. Products don't have to be perfect to begin with. Rough edges are fine. Just release it slightly before you're ready to, and I promise it'll be okay. Do the work early, refine your idea, and as soon as you've refined it, then move really, really quickly. Sample everything. Photoshop's going to be your friend. And finally, things will go wrong. They do for everyone. It's not the end of the world, even though it might feel like it. You're doing fine. That's it. So hopefully you took something away from that, and we'll be building on those ideas in the Q&A section.
Cool. Thanks very much, Greg. It's really interesting to see that and have a bit of background before we jump into the panel discussion. If we just jump over to Gianmarco and hear a bit more about the background from you, and then we'll pick up some of the questions with you just in a moment, Greg, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, hello to everyone. I think I'm gonna start giving a bit of introduction on why I created LacingLab, why I did this. So LacingLab, the reverse marketplace for sneaker, basically is a very, let's say, it was a bit straightforward for me because since I was young, I had passion on sneakers, and I started making money when I was like 15 years old. I'm now 27, just buying and selling sneakers, buying collection out of collectors and selling them to privates and making a bit of money. I was quite surprised at that age, and I was living a nice life at the time, better than now probably, because yes, it was the time where the sneaker business started to boom, and I was lucky enough, let's say, and to be inside this scene from the beginning, basically. So this was actually an idea lesson that I had when I was 18 years old, and basically I just wanted to translate into an actual product what I was doing as a basically occupation at the time. So everyone was just asking me, Gianmarco, I'm looking for this specific shoe, can you find it for me? And that's what I was doing, basically making money out of it. So I was like, okay, first of all, too many people asking me a favor, and I just want to monetize on this. So why not create a platform where people can just request what they want, talking about sneakers, and then I can find it for them. Then after this idea developed in something, actually was something where with the coming into the scene of stuff like Uber or Deliveroo, which at the time they didn't exist, where like they show where like the two-side business where the customer and the provider of the service, they could coexist. Then I started translating the idea into something where like it wasn't just me providing shoes for people, but everyone could both buy and sell sneakers and create requests, basically starting from creating the request to the making the offer. So let's say that then it passed time, I made some experience, done some connection, made some money, which it was needed to start with the creation of the first MVP. And I met Jacob and the guys from Vitamin, I think in 2018 was, beginning of 2018. And we started working together in April 2018. I'm gonna show you now what is pretty much the final product that we can go backwards. Let's see where we get to. So, well, I guess I start with the presentation. This is my pitch deck. So I'm not really, I've done a bit of, it's 2-3 years that I'm doing this. I guess I didn't process my experience yet to be able to maybe teach something directly to you guys, but I just talk about my experience and maybe you're gonna take something away from it. So this is LacingLab, the reverse marketplace for sneakers. How does it work? So wait, I'm just gonna do this. So traditionally market, seller post product they want to sell, sourcing buyer. The reverse marketplace is basically the opposite. So it starts from the buyer, they create a request for specific products, and then seller can make an offer to this product to sell it. So it's like a notion reverse. So buyer and seller use the app. So the buyer is interested in a specific product, create requests, receive offers, and decide whether to buy or not. When the seller, instead, they just browse all the requests within the LacingLab community. They see what people want to buy and then send offer to sell when they can provide a product. So what's the problem LacingLab wants to solve? So time, effort, risk, price, and information. So where can I buy or sell specific sneakers at the right price, being sure not to get scammed without wasting precious time and energy? And the solution is LacingLab. So it's an online platform mediating between people looking for specific sneakers and people that can provide them. So save time, because after I show you a bit how the app works, but really takes less than 1 minute to create a request or to send an offer. So I don't know if people are familiar with eBay. Sometimes creating a listing can take some time, a bit of time. So you'll see later how it works. Then save energy, because once you create the request, there's nothing else you need to do. You just wait for offers, and then you can buy the product. We receive the product. We make a legit check and quality check. So this is to avoid the risk. So you're sure not to get scammed. And we provide the product to the buyer. Then save money, because yes, seller can maximize sales without paying fees. So in our service, seller, they don't pay fee. It's the buyer, they pay a 10% fee, because we offer the full service to the buyer. You ask what you want, you receive it, you're sure that it's authentic and is the quality that you expected. Don't have anything to do, so you pay a 10% for this. And the seller instead, it's part of the fulfillment of the service. So for him, he can sell for free, which I think is probably one of the few platforms now that do this. And always get what you want, because yes, we pretty much can always get the product requested. We have a network of experts in sourcing sneakers. Also, just like the users of LacingLab, they also they work on sourcing sneakers, but in this specific moment, it's more me and my collaborators that are providing the shoes. In the future, we hope that it's just going to be a self-working platform. Then this is a bit of market validation. There are some of the similar solutions. So StockX, so they have 8 million average of monthly unique visitors. eBay is pretty crazy, 1.2 million daily average of sneakers listing. This is just to show that people actually they buy and sell sneaker quite a lot. Market size, it shows how the market is still growing, and it's predicted to get to 97 billion in 2024. This is the market value, the sneaker, not shoes, but only sneaker market value in the world, projected to 2024. And only the resale market, which is basically just like people buying and selling shoes in the second market, was 1.3 billion in 2018, projected to 6+ billion in 2025. So these are just like research that I've been doing before starting everything, just to make sure that I was going towards the right direction. This is a bit of insight on the product that I'll show you later how it actually works. So this is the business model, quite easy. We take 10% commission on each transaction. Market adoption. So social media marketing campaign didn't start yet. At the moment, I'm basically trying to make it work without pushing too much social media, because I think that I like to exploit a bit of word of mouth and direct to consumer marketing at the moment, before jumping into the social media campaign, because these allow me more to keep under radar the amount of people using the app, and to still be able to collect feedback to make sure 100% that then I'll be able to offer the perfect service when I enter the market completely. And in the future, there will be partnership involving independent stores all over Europe. Similar solution. This is an overview of companies that at the moment are dealing within the sneakers market and the tech market. Not really reverse marketplace, but the concept is there. And competitive advantage, data collection. So one of the interesting things is that the attention shifted throughout the time for me, mainly from selling a lot of shoes, selling a lot of sneakers throughout this app, to actually creating a platform that drive people to create requests for specific product, whether they buy or not. For me, it's interesting to have this very sensitive data and consumer data, which is what people want in this specific moment. And it's also interesting because I think that it offers quite a nice browsing experience then to see what people want to buy right now, rather than what people want to get rid of, like platform like eBay or Depop, where people actually like a selling item. Instead, in here is a platform where people are willing to purchase a specific item. So it's interesting to, I mean, for sneakers affection, let's say for sneakers fan, it's quite cool to look into what people request and maybe be able to spot some interesting model that they didn't know before. Then we have the seller incentive, which is, as I said, seller don't pay fees. It's a different business approach. So demand drives supply rather than the opposite. Then being in the business for almost 10, 12 years, I've been able to develop a lot of connections, and this is really like a big advantage, and that helped me out a lot for my experience and the ease of use. Then we'll talk about later how we build this MVP, but we try to be as intuitive as possible, trying to go out with a product that can be basically understood by like my grandparents, which they did. So it was good. It was good to see that. And yes, like design and brand is quite interesting. I guess the fact that I've been working personally on this, and it's interesting because the development process of an MVP at times can be quite slow for who is not actually the developer. Like in this case, me, Vitamin was, I contacted Vitamin to take care of the development, to work on the front end, back end side of the application. And if sometime maybe I didn't really have anything to do about this, about the development of the product, I could focus and my time into develop the design and brand, which I'll show later how it is. These are just the next step. I'm not sure if you might be interested in it, but we can talk about this later. I quickly show you just how the product looks within the website. There we go. So yes, get a sneaker you've been looking for, find buyers, sell with no fees. We guarantee authenticity. That's what we do. This is a very illustrative explanation of what a reverse marketplace is. I mean, I think you got it. You got the concept. So this is what happened in LacingLab. There's a little guy that comes in like, I want this one, exactly this one. We have another little guy that comes in like, here we go. This is, I don't know, £200. And we take a 10% out of it, basically. And this is how the app looks. This is the process for buying and creating a request for a specific pair of shoes. So people just upload a picture of the shoe that they want, select the brand, the size, they write the information. If they don't have the information, we fill them for them because we know every single sneakers in the world. So here you go. And that's it. The request is created. The request go live on the feed. And then you, if you're lucky like this person, you receive, here we go, already received an offer, and you already be able to buy. Here we go. That's how it works. Boom. And so we have a little message. What does it say? So if you know what you want, but you can't find it, don't opt for alternatives, just request for it. We'll take care of the rest. So if you're looking to sell instead, if you're a buyer and maybe, yeah, sorry, I just always have to move our faces to be able to see what are the screen. So are you an expert in sourcing sneakers? With LacingLab, you get to know what potential buyers are looking for. If you sell, the payout equals 100% of your offer. So basically, it's quite intuitive. So yes, get access to other requests within the LacingLab community, send your offer, sell with ease and without fees. So all of these are requests from clients request. So the seller at the moment, you saw the shoes, you know they can provide it, send the offer. There's already a £150 offer. He sent a £120 offer. Fulfillment time, how long it takes to send it to us for the legit check. Submit the offers, and that's it. This is all you have to do to send an offer. Then if the buyer purchases the product, the seller sends the product to us. We do the legit check and we pass it to the buyer. This is just to talk briefly about the browsing experience, because it might seem that in this app, all you do is just requesting sneakers and send offers. But the interesting thing that we found out, it wasn't really the plan at the beginning, but with customer feedbacks, we found out was quite interesting for them was the fact that, yes, like it was interesting for people to just look at what people request and maybe find some interesting shoes that they didn't know before. And they would be able to request the same exact shoes on LacingLab in this way. So like, let's see which one this guy likes. Before he liked Thunder, now he likes, I'm sure he likes Flames. Here we go. So he likes this one, takes a screenshot, and just create a request for the same shoes. And that's it. It's quite straightforward, same process. So need a new pair of shoes, but don't really know which one to go for. You might get inspired by other users' requests on LacingLab. And this is pretty much it. Just I hope you understood a bit how the product works. Then we can go through more detailed aspects of it later, if you wish for.
Thanks for that, Gianmarco. That's great to hear. And yeah, good to see it at this stage, having been there with you in 2018. If anyone does have any questions, ask them down in the Q&A down the bottom. We have actually already had a couple sent in, so I wanted to kick off with some of them, if that's all right. We've had one from Roberto. I mean, I think we all know that when you're starting off a venture or building an MVP, there must be a hell of a lot to do. So how do you best distribute time, and how do you prioritize what gives you most value? Can we ask that to Gianmarco first? Because as you said, you came up with the idea when you were 18 years old, and then I don't know how old you were when you actually pushed the button on the idea. But yeah, how did you prioritize what you were going to do at that time?
Yeah, let's say that at the time, first of all, I was still living in Italy, in a small village in Italy, actually, to be precise. So it wasn't really the environment where I felt that I could create what I created now. So then I moved to London, and I realized that it was a different world. So I started making experience, let's say, growing my connection, my knowledge of the product, started working for a sneaker shop, obviously in London. And that gave me a lot of insights. And this was a project that I was constantly working on. I was sketching UI design. I was taking notes day by day while, let's say, yes.
There was no one single point then when you were like, right, today's the day when I'm now starting it. It was more organic.
It got to that point basically when in 2018, when then I came, probably 2017, where I felt like, first of all, I sold my whole sneaker collection, making some decent deposit, which then I used to pay you guys to start our adventure together. But just to have the money that basically, let's say that actually the first step was I tried to start doing business with my friends and with the collaborators, with the people around me. And I realized that everyone has his own life. It's hard to schedule time. It's hard to make things develop fast enough to be able to be agile, to change concept and to build stuff. It wasn't really the way. So then I decided unfortunately, I didn't have the skills to actually develop a product. And so that's it. Then I just decided to contact different companies. I spoke with basically every single company in Europe. And so this is heads up for Vitamin, because then in the end I chose you.
Oh,
and no, I was interested because yes, I guess like I try to get as much material ready to be able to start this and have a very clear vision of it to provide to you guys, to be able to not waste time into more product development. So I got a pitch deck ready. I got a mock-up of how I envision the app, and I provided it to you. I told Vitamin what was my budget, which I couldn't go over. And what was one of the reasons why, I'm thankful is that it was not a great budget, I have to say. Probably for many of the company it talked to wasn't enough. So, but there's always a way to make things start, and I guess
you have to go more agile, and you have to
more agile. Yeah, more agile. Mainly, I really wanted to get things started. I knew that there would have been issues, there would have been problem. Or once you started, you're gonna solve every problem that you face, and then your project is gonna shift to something different. It's gonna develop. It's the development process, and it can be long. We took around 2 years to now get to a pretty much, let's say, a very close to final version, which is what I'm basically
with a tech product. It's never going to be finished, Gianmarco.
It's never going to be. I call final. I don't know if my vocabulary is not big enough, especially tech speaking. But let's say that now is at a stage where I'm really confident in sending it out to market to people that don't know anything about LacingLab, which is what's happening now. And I'm getting good feedback, and I'm already doing business, so it's good. And so yes.
Just to clarify then, so when you were starting, you tried to do as much as possible that you could do, and then you identified the holes, and then you went to someone else.
Basically, I've done everything I could do by myself until the moment where I needed someone else to bring me to the next step, which was working on everything. There was a potential marketing campaign, a presentation, pretty much like, yes, a mock-up of the actual final product that I was envisioning. And then I had to go to someone that can actually make it happen, basically. And that was the moment where I came to you guys.
It seems like a very sensible way of doing things. But Greg, I think you approached it slightly differently, didn't you? Yeah. So when you started, obviously you had the skills from university, but how did you distribute your time? I mean, it's not just a tech product. It's not just a physical product, it's not just a brand, it's kind of a combination of all of these things, so it must be a bit of a head fuck.
Yeah, I mean, there's a differentiation between what I did and what I would do now if I did it again. And to be honest, the short answer is sales. As a small company, you're on a ticking time bomb before you run out of money. What you should be focusing on is sales. And the sales, you're going to your customers, they'll tell you what you need to change about your product. It's the most direct, most valuable feedback you're going to get. So that's a really good way to spend your time. As a product person myself.
So what are you selling at that MVP stage then? Are you selling your Photoshop renders?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, once you get to that sample, that first representation of what your product's going to be with that core value proposition, even if it's really, really rough. Start going to vendors. If you're selling to shops, go get a meeting with them. If they'll take a meeting with you, go show them what you've got. I've got here. This is the first product that I went to a shop with. This is the wrong fabric, the wrong color, the wrong shape, and different detailing to what the end product was. But I had this. I'd run out of money and I had this. So I started calling up shops. I got meetings, and the first meeting that I went into, I got an order big enough to place my first production run. It didn't look anything like this, but it was enough that they could buy into the concept, see what I was going to do. I talked to them about the brand, what it was going to be, what they would be receiving, and I got the sale, which I'll add a caveat. It sounds like a lovely story. The first shop I went into happened to place this big order. The next 5 didn't. So I think I just got lucky on that first one. But I mean, yeah, like you'll get your orders.
So just concentrate on the sales, and once you've got the sales, you can build the rest of the business around it.
Yeah, I mean, you naturally have the passion to develop your product. That's what you want to spend all your time on. If you're doing this, you love the product, and so naturally that's what you do. In the evenings, that's what you'll spend your time doing, drawing new things, tinkering, making tweaks. You force yourself to do the sales because that's what's going to keep your business alive, so that you can spend more time on the products later on.
Cool. No, I think that's very sage advice. I think a few people are interested in how much an MVP costs, and me as an agency founder, I really don't enjoy that question because it's very subjective. And as Gianmarco said, he came to us with the budget that he'd got from selling all his sneaker collection, and then said, "This is my budget," and we kind of work back from that to produce and to inject as much value as possible into it. But Greg, on the same point, how did you establish your budget?
Yeah, sure. So I had set aside £8,000, and that had to get me to the point.
Where was that? Just what you. That was
the money that I had my savings.
Right.
That was at that point in my life. That's what I had my savings, and I had that amount of money to get more, basically. So I spent that money on developing my first product. And I think we were about 6,500 in when the first product was finished, and that's when I had to take it to market and get the sales. I knew that I had to get investment, And to get that investment, I had to have proof of concept, and that proof of concept was going to be in the form of an order. So I got to the point where I had an MVP or a sample that was good enough to take to the shops, wherever it was at, and I had to get an order, and that's what I did.
And do you mind saying what your initial valuation was that you raised at after getting that?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
But
But I mean, it was £50,000 over 2 years based on hitting sales targets for 2 years.
yeah.
So I got the first £25,000 to cover my first production run and get some sales in, and then based on hitting the sales targets and for the year after, I received another £25,000, and I gave away at that point 15% in total of the business.
Yeah, see, they're not astronomical numbers. I mean, well, they are quite big numbers, but for a fashion brand, I would have assumed that it would take quite a lot more than that to get it off the ground.
Yeah, and you know, it probably will do.
So
Yeah.
just because I'm interested as well, like, so the key point for getting that investment for you was getting before a first order, right?
I had to prove traction. You know, an investor wants to see traction more than anything else.
That's not the interesting thing is this, like, because like that's what we were talking before. Like, I don't know if you had already your social media, I don't know, Instagram page, whatever, already ready before it. Was that a good selling point, or that really didn't? You didn't really mind.
It wasn't a thing for me. Being a skiwear brand, I was subscribed more to the wholesale model because we know exactly where our customers are going to be at a certain period of time. During winter, when they're skiing, they're going to be in resort, and so we could sell to them at that particular time. It's a really easy way to do it. Also, with the wholesale model, they pay a deposit up front, which means I get a little bit of money to do the manufacturing, which, you know, early on when you're getting that cash flow, it really, really matters.
Yeah, I can imagine you have to squeeze it through as well.
So for me, getting that order was it.
Okay.
And that's when you can feel a bit more confident then and actually design with a bit of headspace and confidence. Yeah. Gianmarco, so because it's the same thing, if I remember correctly, and this is an app, and a lot of people are surprised at how much apps cost, but I think you put together and saved about 25,000, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. That was I was very surprised at the beginning to hear like
what kind of
how much I mean, they went roughly, the range was between £120 to literally £10, but for didn't really trust much the people I talked to when we went down to a bit 10 grand. There was I think a company, but it was really like I felt it was a bit off, so I was like, not really. But like obviously this, I guess it depends really much what's the budget, and I think there's not a wrong budget, because I'm sure that, I mean, if I had £120,000, I probably would have put that money at the beginning.
You spent it on tech.
Yes, and 100%. It's more about like really working with the budget, because obviously we try to, and to be honest, yes, like the average price, I don't know, maybe it might interest you, Jacob, as well, but then it came out after talking to many possible choices, was around 40 grand, 35 to 40 grand, what like the average was. And which I would have spent that money. I didn't have it at the time, so I was happy to somehow even potentially risk, because obviously working in an agile way then brought up some issue, but then issues that then we solved slowly, which is the main thing. That then maybe you spread them a bit more longer in time, but then you always solve the next problem. There's always a problem, and you always solve it until the point where, at the moment, there's no problem. The app is problem free until we're gonna keep working on it and other problems will come up. But that was the thing, yeah.
Just because to draw a parallel with Greg's point on getting those sales, I mean, I think you've kind of did it as well, but you did it by working in that industry and gaining those connections. And am I right in saying that when you first pushed the app live, through some of those connections, there was almost £10,000 in gross merchandising volume that went through the platform on the first day, but then we kind of pulled it back, and then you relaunched it after that. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, we went through two tests. So the first basically working version we created, which it was basically the first beta version, which it took us, I think, about 3-4 months to get ready. So it was the beta version, like a skeleton of the app, basically, where I had a mainly list of around 100 people I selected, which it was around 50% potential buyer, 50% potential seller, and within this there were a good 50%, yes, of people that heard something about LacingLab that I already mentioned to them, and the other 50% that never heard anything about LacingLab. And it was interesting to have them playing around with the app, and that brought us some good feedback that then we used to bring into the current version, which then we tested. That was a simulation, so people weren't actually buying. We're just trying it, with creating requests, buying, but simulating a purchase. Instead, when we went with the first live test, yes, we actually got a gross volume of revenue of around £7,000 in about a week, with around 33 people that bought. And the interesting things which I was positive about, that was the fact that about just 4 or 5 were friends that bought. And I was happy also because friends that didn't know anything about shoes, but they understood how it works, and they actually ended up buying again. So that's interesting, even if it's friends. Then yes, as Jaco was saying, about 20 people were 20 sales that went through because they were already existing clients. So basically all my clients that now using the app to put down their orders, and it's a good way to drive transaction through it. And
it's the same as Greg then. So you've already established your market, exactly, and then you're building the business behind it.
Exactly. Basically, that is something that already should be able to sustain personally. Basically, it's just if I drive my personal business into something that I was doing, maybe even like I didn't make many receipts before. So at least now I'm regular with doing stuff through LacingLab. So and you have something which actually have a value that can grow, which this is definitely something that I was really willing to create, something that actually existed rather than just a personal business that I was doing through social media. Then an interesting part was like the 6 or 7 sales went through people that actually I've never spoke to, never met, never known, and were actually people from my customer from my old shop where I used to work. And
that's when you knew that you'd made it.
Yeah, then I was like, yes, that's the way. Because basically, I just had some of my old colleagues that were suggesting to clients that weren't finding the shoes that they were looking for. They, instead of sending them to other shops like this was size, go to, I don't know, what other shop we have on Sports Direct, whatever. They were just buy on LacingLab, you request for it, they send you an offer, you buy it. And we had 6 sales that went through like this. So people that never heard about the app, they downloaded it, they managed to create a request. Once they received the offer, they actually ended up buying. And I was very happy, even if it's just like 6 sales like this. But considering that there is no social media, there is no actual marketing there, this was more like word of mouth. And when word of mouth works, I think it's a good metric.
Yeah.
So then after that was basically, yes, my way to get the first transaction. Then we went back. We found obviously that there was some other situation we needed to fix before going more out to the public, which we did, and it's pretty fresh now. We got this latest version ready, which now I'm very happy with. It's been a month around.
Okay, you have to learn and then you have to iterate. I'm conscious of time because we've only got a few minutes left, but we've also had a question which I can empathise with, but it's from Richard. How do you deal as a sole founder with working in what must sometimes seem like an echo chamber? How do you MVP? Okay, yeah, so Greg, I know you're a sole founder, and I'd actually like to expand on that because I know that you lost half of your stock 1 year, and I think I saw you around that time, and it did seem to be a pretty dark moment, especially as a sole founder. How do you drag yourself out of that kind of situation?
First part of the question, you got to have people around you who you trust, who will give you honest feedback. everyone's going to tell you that they love your idea, it's the best, this feature's amazing. They don't mean it. They're just being nice. It's important that you're able to have people that you trust that you can go to with an idea and know that you'll get genuine feedback. And also talking to customers, maybe they don't know that it's your brand or whatever, and you go to them and ask them feedback on this new idea that you've seen online or something. So that's a nice way to get genuine feedback on your MVP, whilst working in basically your own head. In terms of when things go wrong, you're definitely exposed as just yourself making all these decisions. We all make bad decisions sometimes, and you can't trust yourself to always get it right. And I became very exposed in the end of 2018, where I built a supply chain and I'd chosen to continue working with this supplier who had been unreliable a couple of times in the past. And he let me down in a really, really big way. And in fact, it got to the point where over half our stock was delivered faulty one year. And this is, an expensive, reputable British supplier. So it was a surprise and devastating for the business, especially such an early stage to lose.
Did you consider throwing the towel in?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, especially when you're on your own dealing with those kinds of issues. It's really, really, you go to it's your baby. You put hours and your life and your soul into this, and then it can be whipped away so quickly. But I was too reliant on one supplier. There was one point of failure in the supply chain, and we didn't have enough contingency time to react afterwards. So we restructured the supply chain. I put in a supply chain manager. We built backups in the supply chain to stop that happening again. And we broadened the collection to limit the risk being exposed to just one fabric essentially. But bringing in the supply chain manager was really, really, really big on that point, because that was someone who was expert within that field. I was good, but I was still finding my way. By bringing in someone who was an expert in that field, as Gianmarco said earlier, he tried until he found his points of failure. That was great to have a trusted person. Then I would go to him with suggestions. He'd come back and say, "Greg, you're an idiot. Do something else," which is actually really, really nice to hear after you've been in your own echo chamber for so long. Having someone so certain that they can make a better decision with your business is great.
Yeah, well, it's good to see that you did make it out the other side. And Gianmarco, you had any particularly bad moments where you've considered throwing in, you might be doing the wrong thing?
Not really, also because I think it's
not yet, mate, not yet.
Not yet, but the difference is that I see the way you talk about it, and that's interesting because this really is like your baby, like your creation, like you carry in this way. For me, this was mainly business because yes, that since the beginning was like, that's the way I make money is with shoes. If there's a way where I can make more money, it's probably going to be with shoes. I'm reselling only sneakers now. I want to resell a company. Basically, that was the original thought, because at the same time, which is what helps in this maybe like more tough moment, is the fact that I'm at the same time working on what is actually my passion as well. So what I would call like what they call slow motion multitasking helps a lot. Having other kind of interested which are more into the creative industry. So like what was interesting is that working, as I was saying before, into the creation of the branding, the design, and keeping my other interests, which are photography, architecture, and collaborating with other friends in LacingLab, I realized that I could collaborate in something else. So at the time where I didn't have much to do, because the guys from Vitamin were doing all the work and they didn't need me to do anything, that could have been a tough time, very tough time, if I didn't have other way where to put my effort, where to put my creativity. And luckily, I managed to then, at the same time, while I've been building LacingLab, I built this creative studio, which is called Pump 3000, PAMP, if you want to check it out. Yes, check it out as well. And that's it. And it's something that now is working alongside with LacingLab, and sometimes they they go together as like part of the branding for LacingLab, the website, and other project. We've been doing it in a collaborative way.
We've got a couple more coming through at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've got good answers to this, but what would your number one book recommendation be for someone starting out in the business world? Go on, Greg.
That's a difficult one. Off the top of my head, I really enjoyed Shoe Dog, which is the story of the founder of Nike.
That was excellent.
Right, as well.
Because mostly because it's kind of, it shows the element of luck in it all. You know, he persevered, he had a good idea, and like the roller coaster of a journey, you know, had so many ups and downs, points of failure where it could have fallen through, but that story of perseverance and eventually, you know, victory is really, really inspiring.
I got two. One that business, life, whatever, everyone needs to read. Everyone probably read already, but Sapiens from Yuval Noah Harari. Obviously, whether it's a business or life, whatever, that one, especially if we're talking about tech, I feel like this is the basis, but more maybe like business focus. A very interesting one was that I read was The Tipping Point, which was talking more about like how to exactly. It was Malcolm Gladwell, I think, the Malcolm Gladwell, which talks about how epidemics spread, not only viruses, but like we know right now. But that was an interesting one. Tipping Point, but Sapiens and all the books from Yuval.
You found that was good for business.
Definitely for business. Well, mainly for thinking in an ethical way when dealing with technology, and that like may shift also my way of thinking what I'm doing in something that is not just selling sneaker, making money, but trying to do something.
You didn't go into business for ethics or anything. You just said you went in just to make pure hard cash.
But then you need to kind of change, you know. You need to understand that this now is not only for that. Now I like to push the idea of a different business model to make money, which is not just look how many possibilities you have, you can buy whatever you want. Rather, it's more like know exactly what you want to buy this, ask for what you want and just get what you want. Just buy with consciousness, not just for the sake of buying. And this is more the message I want to spread with LacingLab. So
it's a very good message. And sorry, because we're 2 minutes over, but I also want to really ask this question. Thanks, Nada, for that question on the books. Richard Clues has asked, what is the most important thing that you must do next? Can you give us some beautiful pearls of inspiration, Greg Stidolph?
My next steps from this point?
Yeah. Dominate the ski-wear market.
Yeah, that's the general idea. No, it's sell more. Like always, like we're still at a really young stage of the business, and the point at this point is to grow as fast as we can, take every opportunity, and just, you know, keep hitting those growth targets. Every year it changes. You know, the first year it was I want to be in a shop, and then I want to be in 5 more shops, or I want to be in this particular shop. And each time that happens, that target then immediately is irrelevant. Never cared about it. What's the next thing?
I was going to say that. Did you celebrate those wins? Because I was quite often going, oh, I look back and they're all done, but it didn't feel as good as I thought it would.
No, it's the most unfulfilling journey. the moment you hit that target, it was irrelevant anyway. Didn't care. Just done it.
To end
What's
on
next?
Inspiring words, not.
Sorry, man.
So what are you concentrating? You're doing more of the same but bigger. Is it?
Well, for us, being ski-wear for the last few years was, you know, it meant we had really big spikes in cash flow. So winters would be really, really good, and then we'd kind of hold on for the summer and then have a really good winter again. So now we're launching summer collections as well, which was meant to be out this year, but COVID stopped that. But yeah, so we'll have you know, summer collections and winter collections, which would be a huge selling point for the brand to have that steady cash flow all year round, and reaching some new markets as well.
Okay, that's that's excellent to hear, and I wish you all the best with it. I think it will go well. Hopefully post-COVID. Gianmarco, you were telling us an interesting strategy that you were adopting recently to get people in. As you said, you didn't want to go through social media. You didn't want to spend lots of money on marketing. you just wanted to continue doing a little bit more of what's been successful so far. Is that the next step, the strategy?
Yes, let's say that, I mean, as to answer the question, probably the most important thing I actually need to do now is build an actual team around me. I have collaborators, but I'm talking about real people like working full-time within the project to push this forwards. And for this to happen, it's the next step is going to be raising a decent investment that will allow me to do this and to keep working on the product that needs improvement, even if it's a good stage. And yes, I'm now in this stage where I think that is a stage where I can do things that, let's say, are not scalable. So in the future, there will be things that I will have to think about how to scale this. Now is a moment where I can do this. So go to direct customer, talk to people, just stop people in the street and tell them download the app and request a pair of shoes, and people they just do it. And I think it's important to show to potential investors, the people that I will then talk to try to raise the money, that this is a proven concept that works without social media, because like it could be quite easy to be tricked into like the traction of an Instagram page. You can have 100,000 followers and have a product that is destined to die, but just because of the follower, people can just be cool. And then it's always easy. It's the easiest thing to get followers on Instagram or on social media. This is going to be something that comes after. Before it's I want to prove the concept 360 degrees without all these other tricks, because the tricks are just tricks, you know.
That sounds brilliant as well. Although I thought you were going to talk about your sly little comments everywhere, which are getting you loads of business without spending a penny.
Yeah, this works. Like for the I forgot we spoke about it when people weren't connected. But one thing, that I'm doing now is basically just commenting under post Facebook group, people requesting sneaker, creating want to buy post. I just comment being like just requesting on LacingLab. People actually end up downloading the app. This is still direct to customer marketing, I would say. So yes, and it works very well.
Fantastic. Well, look, we have run over a bit, but thank you both, Gianmarco. Thank you, Greg. That's been very insightful. If anyone has any questions, please send them over. Nadar, I've got some book recommendations as well, so I might send you them over as well after this if you're interested. But thanks a lot, and
thanks you guys.
If you want to join next time, we'll send you the details for the next one. Thanks.
Great one. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.